Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Beldin. Today we're going to be painting a Harley Quinn. I had some extra resin left over and it was about to expire. That's why you'll notice there is some green and some red color. It was some clear resin and it needed to get used up, so that's why we have these weird colors. I also had some white left over that I was using up to do the top of her base. I had let the resin cure and get a little bit of sunlight, and I don't know if I just let the resin cure too long or if it was because the resin was old and a little expired, but her head turned out okay, but her legs cracked a bit and there was a big open spot in one of the bases, so I had to mold that out. Alright, so we're going to get right into this. We've already started doing some painting. What I did is I had some green and some red dyes, and I dropped those dyes into the clear resin. I was just testing some new dyes I got to see how they looked, to see how they turned out. So since I was using the clear resin, I thought it would be a good time to test that. I was pretty happy with how the dyes mixed together. Of course, that could have been why the leg cracked there, but I can't say for sure. So here I'm coming in and I'm applying the base layers. For those of you who have watched my previous videos, you'll know that I typically start with a white base for the skin tones, and as I progress onto the darker colors, I will use a black base for things like her jacket, which you'll see upcoming here in a little bit. Now, because this was a clear base and it was something I wasn't used to working with, I typically will do a gray base. I found that I ended up using quite a bit more paint to do the primer color than I expected, so I kind of go over this a number of times. I was a little impatient during the painting process, I feel like, and I think I didn't let the white paint quite cure enough before I applied my second layers. So as I mentioned, here I am, I'm coming in and we are doing the black base coat for her jacket. Again, with these light colors, I had to apply a little bit more base coloring. Now, compared to the white, the black went on much smoother, and I feel like I only had to do a couple of coats to get the results I was looking for. Now, in hindsight, there is some skin on that jacket outfit there, so I should have done some masking and painted some of it white, but I'll end up fixing that later, as you'll see. So here we are, we're coming in with the base, and this is a brick base with a wood panel, so I went in with a dark primer. The black was much easier to come in from with a white. After the trouble I had painting her other parts of the model with white, it just felt much easier to use the black here. And honestly, brick is going to be a much darker color. I could have used a white primer and then used like a yellow and then follow up with a red to give it more of a bright brick, but I wanted to go with more of a dark tone with this. A lot of my models are very bright, colorful, happy. That's the type that I prefer to paint. Something a little more, I guess, uplifting would be the right type of model I prefer. So here we are moving on to her legs. Now, I have purchased a pack of paints from Vallejo, and they were skin paints, and many of the skin tones that they came with I don't really care for, so this was an excuse to use some of those skin colors up that I didn't like, and I just want to use the paint up. For many models, I am very excited to paint them. I either really think the character is cute and would be fun to paint, or it's a character from a video game or an anime that I really enjoy. With Harley Quinn, I don't really read a lot of comic books, and I don't really know the character that well. I've seen some of the TV shows, the Squad show, and I have seen some of the movies, so I don't dislike the character of Harley Quinn, but I thought it would still be a fun model to paint and might challenge what I am used to. I do a lot of skin tones and a lot of bare models, so painting the clothes and trying to have everything line up is a little bit out of my realm of expertise, but that's part of the fun. I'm learning, I'm having fun, I'm not stressing about this, and that's what I hope I'm inspiring others to do. If you're not inspired to paint, I at least hope you're relaxing and enjoying this calming video. And it turned out to be, I was able to get everything painted up pretty quickly. The pieces all went together very smoothly, and overall I feel like I was happy with how things came together. This one still is one of my models that I felt like I was a little quick with and was moving through it a little hastily. And here we're coming in, we are painting up her face, just touching that up a little bit. And since we have the skin tone in there, we're going to move over now and we're going to paint up some of her legs. I've tried to do some shading. I've done some very dark salmon rose shading in there. And the skin tone I'm using is an orange tone. I don't think it turned out great, but you'll have to let me know what you guys think. So that's what I'm coming in here, and it's just touching up those skin tones before we move back over to her head and start touching up and highlighting her hair. I'm just touching up her backside there and just finishing up some of those small spots. Now we're coming in and we are painting her hair and doing some highlights. I painted her face a little earlier with some of those similar skin tones, and I'm coming in with some blonde to fill up her hair and clean it up. The top of her head had some print lines from when I printed the models, and I tried to sand them down, but it ended up just creating flat spots. So her head looks a little bumpy, and I'm not very pleased. I'm still taking time to figure out the best method of printing these things so I don't show the support lines on the final model. Now, her gloves in the picture that I had were white, but I wanted to make them correspond to the gloves and have an opposite color. So on the blue side, I did a red glove, and on a red side of her jacket, I did a blue glove. So you'll see I just painted the blue glove there, and now I am using the same blue tone paint to come in and fill in her jacket. I have masking tape to cover up some of the more sharp lines, the clean straight lines, and then I use silly putty to cover up the curved lines, the odd locations. I have masking fluid as well, but the silly putty doesn't require any time to dry. You can truly mold it and push it in there, and you can reuse it time and time again. I've used this one batch of silly putty now, probably on over 20 different models, and somehow it still keeps working and it serves its purpose. I'm very pleased with the purchase. Now we're coming in and finishing up the other side of the jacket with a red. Again, all I did is I went in and I masked opposite sides. Now, there was a big process of me masking and curing, and I typically will come in with a matte finish as well between paints to help cover up any issues that I may have. In case I make a mistake and I overpaint, it's easier to clean it up when there's a matte mask or a matte layer on there, and that makes it so the paint is able to be washed off without affecting the lower layer. I'm using the red paint, and I'm coming in and I'm coloring her shorts, we'll call them her very short shorts. This one was a little harder because of the angles. I had trouble. I kept painting her skin, so I'm going to come in later with a brush and have to clean that up a bit, but that's okay. I don't mind doing a little bit of brush work. Sometimes it's very calming, and I get into this very zen state where I listen to music in the background and kind of lose myself to the painting. I've stayed up many a times till 2 or 3 in the morning painting. What I did here is I mixed an orange paint with some of my water, and then I used a little bit of the airbrush thinner paint and That helps it pour into those crevices, and I essentially just make my own mask. Now right now it looks pretty bad when it's first applied, and that was something I had to really get over when I first started. I was introduced to masking by a friend who also paints miniatures, and I also watched many YouTube videos online that explain the masking process. I had tried it on a few models and started small and slowly worked my way up and got a little bit more and more brave with it once I got the knack for it. I put it on that spinning table to help paint and brush the sides. Makes life so much easier. It was a very inexpensive purchase. I think it was $8 or $9 online. I'm coming in and painting her shoes. In the picture itself, it did not show a lot of color, a lot of detail. It really just had basic white shoes. There was no painting on the soles. There was no painting on the laces. So I try to keep it as close as I can to the picture because that's just more fun for the way I choose to paint. But the white shoes was a little bit much for me, so I did have to come in and clean up. Well, I should not say clean up. I had to come in and add some detail. So I just took a little bit of black, and I'm highlighting her shoelaces with black highlight or black paint here, just to give it a little bit more color. I think it draws out the shoes a bit more and gives them a little bit more flavor. They were very, very bland without those little details. They had some markings on the side of the boots, and I took a little bit of red paint. I'm using just a basic flat red here and a basic blue, and I'm painting the opposite sides of the shoes, trying to again match the similar outfit that she is currently wearing. The red ran a little bit on that shoe, so I was able to take a Q-tip and just clean it off with some water, and then I went back in and was able to reapply that red paint and was pretty happy with how it turned out. Now I'm coming in and I'm taking a black paint and I am applying it to the pistol that she is wearing or holding. I'll come in here, and this was a little bit more difficult because the way her hands and finger wrap around it, but we worked with it. I had to come in a couple times and touch up her fingers and glove. Using black was enough to make my life a little bit easier because I could use it as shadows underneath her fingers if I got a little too aggressive with the paint color. We're coming back in with the airbrush, and we're doing a little bit of blue on her ponytails. I've got a piece of paper towel, and I'm using that as the divider there. That way I can cover up any overspray and not highlight her face with the blue. So I'm coming up and just cleaning up the tips a little bit, making it a little more thorough. So I come in and I'm coming in at some different angles. Since I have the blue in the spray gun, I'm going to come around and do the other side of her shorts. I used a slightly different blue on her hair and on her shorts just to draw the eye. I touched up her glove briefly there just for some light shading on her glove. Now I'm coming in and using that same blue to do some minor shading on her arm and just touch up some of the overspray that I did earlier. So you can kind of see things are coming together now. I've got the gloves set aside and I've got her sleeves painted, and now I'm coming in, now that she's masked, and reapplying that base white. As I mentioned earlier, if I would have thought ahead, I would have probably masked her body and her lower abdomen there to not have to do a base white coat and waste paint and waste time, to be honest. So I'm trying to gently come in and clean her up. Now I'm coming back over and cleaning up her hairline. I went back in with the red. I'm using the same flat red I had before, and I'm painting her hair. I've used the paper towel again for that same mask. It really makes life a lot easier. As you can see, I have a lot of overspray. I'm really hitting that mask a lot, so I can paint freely and not worry about having to be exact and precise. Now, unfortunately, when I come in from these other angles, I don't have that same freedom, so I have to pull the mask away. Again, I'm coming in and just touching up her glove briefly. Things are starting to finish up with the airbrush. It will have to be precise and fix the mistakes I made earlier during the painting process. If a mask wasn't done properly or if a line didn't clean up, you can see the back of her shorts, some of the blue paint. It kind of was still a little wet when I applied the mask, and that made it run and kind of bunch up, and that's why you'll see it looks cracked. So we'll have to clean that up. The lines are pretty jagged on her shorts, between her body and her shorts. So we'll come in with some paint and we'll clean those lines up and hopefully make that look a little bit nicer. Thank you for watching this far. We're at the halfway point now. Now we're going to start really getting into some of the minute details. I'm coming in and I'm cleaning up her eyes here. I'm going to paint her eyebrows a little bit and come in with some dark eyeliner to help accent her eyes. It's slow and it's a peaceful process to do this. It's so calming. Now, I've mentioned it in my videos in the past, eyes seem to be something I really struggle with. So, I have printed decals in the past, and I very much just improve me as a painter and honestly be more fun in the long run. I'm struggling with her eyes here. I don't really know how to make them look the way I want, so I come back up and I do a lot of touch-ups, a lot of small little details here to try to highlight them. I'm coming in with her iris, I'm coming in with her pupil, but I did these in the wrong orders, so I feel like it was not coming together the way I wanted, and I'm really spending a lot more time on those eyes than maybe I normally would like to, but it's good practice. So, and honestly, I lost track of myself and really lost track of time doing this anyways. But yeah, as you can see, in my opinion, looking at the eyes, they're a little frightening at this point, but I'm hoping once I apply a layer of gloss and touch them up a little bit when the paint dries, we can get a little bit nicer of an effect. Now we're coming up and the black base on the pistol is done, so I have a gunmetal gray, and I come in and I use that to paint metals and, well, obviously weapons, guns, things like that. I don't really have a lot of armaments with my models, so this is a rare exception, so I'm trying to get this painted up. I really don't know what pistols look like, so I'm doing the best I can to make it look like the actual item itself. So I'm coming in just really touching up all the handle, touching up the back end where the ammunition would go in, and now we're back over and painting the jacket. So I try to keep it in camera view when I remember. That's kind of why you'll see me jumping and pulling it out of view quite often. I took a fluorescent green and I took a purple. I used them to highlight the words on her shirt and on her jacket. The fluorescent green and the purple were reminiscent of the Joker, since most of the lettering and words seem to reference that. Now here I'm moving up and I am painting the lettering into her Joker collar. The word here that you can barely see is pudding. Pudding. I'm painting her collar in a purple blue, the same purple blue I used to do the lettering on her jacket and shirt. I'm using the blue and I'm touching up her hairbands and cleaning up her hairbands now. The piece is starting to come together. I was a little worried at how the clear resin was going to turn out, but once all the base layers were applied, I don't think it was very noticeable, except on the legs themselves. I think they still look off. Just touching up the hand now. I'm coming in with that skin tone and trying to touch up each of the fingertips. The gloves were fingerless, so again, I probably should have put a layer of like mask on the fingers to avoid me having to repaint them over and over, but it gives me an excuse to have fun and paint some more, so I didn't really mind this at all, to be honest. It was quite relaxing. I didn't really put a lot of effort into the fingers or the gloves, just a base skin tone with a simple white fingernail, and then I painted over that with a red and blue to paint the fingernails. I don't normally do that either for my models, me know in the comments below who's your favorite DC character. One of my friends really loves Superman, another one really loves Batman. I know they're kind of the standard famous DC characters, so let me know below who's your favorite. We're using that skin tone to come up and fix her abdomen and highlight her waistline there. Now the shirt had a few tears in it, which I admit when I was first printing the model, I didn't know. I thought those were mistakes in the printing and I was going to have to fix them. I was able to get it all painted in and I thought it looked honestly pretty cool. So kudos to the modeler, whomever made that. As always, I try to give credit to the person who made the model. This one was purchased in a bundle, and there was no information about the creator of the model itself. So, I still just want to give a shout out to that whomever made the model. If you know who it is, let me know in the comments below so I can add that in the description. I would love to do that. I always try to give credit where credit is due. This was a really pretty model and they did a good job. All the pieces came together and fit nicely. The base itself was actually one giant piece. I had to split it in two in my printing software, and that's why you'll notice that it was two colors at first, and then there's also a small printing line in the center. I tried to cover it up the best I could. So hopefully you don't notice it, but I think you can see it in a few shots and a few angles there. Regardless, here I am coming in and touching up her border. She has this really cool looking silver like etching or metalwork that seems to be placed inside the brickwork. It was fun to paint the top side, but the edges were tedious. I had to be very meticulous as I didn't want to paint the brick metal either. But I thought it was very neat to watch this come together. Normally when I rewatch my videos, it's just kind of me going, oh yeah, I remember that. But this was, I thought, really cool, kind of seeing the contrast of the dark reds and the bright shiny silver metallic metal coming to life. And then when I come in and paint these diamonds in the back, it really seems to make the brickwork pop. I use a very sharp, bright red to highlight it. Now, I've probably focused a little bit more on this part of the painting process because, admittingly, it took me a very long time. As I've said in previous videos, I do speed these videos up. These are at 4 times the speed. So there's about 4 hours for the painting that I tried to condense down to a hopefully easy to digest 40-minute video. And I hope that everyone is still enjoying this. And if you haven't fallen asleep yet, I hope you're still enjoying the content. do some soft spoken at the beginning and then slowly transition to whispering. So let me know what everyone thinks. You can enjoy the whispering, do you enjoy the soft spoken, or do you like the combination of both? I include some soft mic brushing as well, and I'd like to know what you guys think about that. It does take a little bit more time to record this ASMR style video instead of just some quick audio with some music in the background. So I'd be really interested to get some feedback to let me know what you guys enjoy and what type of videos you guys would like to see going forward. So if you want more like laid back, soft spoken, if you want the status, the kind of the combination of both of, let me know. Some of my first videos were about 15 to 20 minutes long. The last couple videos I've done have been upwards in the 30 to 40 minute range. I've been trying to make them a little bit more long form content for the ASMR style so everyone can relax and hopefully get some nice sleep while they listen to me ramble about painting. Purchased a small bottle of ivory paint from Vallejo, and I am so happy with it. It was one of my best purchases. I use white and cold white and black very often, but to have a nice ivory color, it surprised me how much it has come in handy, and that's what I'm using currently to paint these dice. I came in with that ivory paint and then I touched it up on the edges as well. Finally, I came in with some light purple and tried to touch up the pips of the dot itself with the purple. So here I'm coming in with that red. I'm using, I believe, a scarlet red here to paint in the H and the Q in her name. I'm really clopping up the paint here and putting it in very, very thick. I wanted to actually have that thick appearance, like it's pulled up, like there's something to it. And then I apply a gloss layer over top of it later, and I think it turned out great. The video is about to come to a close here, and thank you for watching. So it was a silver to do the metalwork, a scarlet to do the center, and then a combination of black and white to make that gray for the center heart. Again, I thought this just turned out really well. I like the contrast of the brickwork to the metalwork. Now I'm coming in and touching up her legs, kind of cleaning up some of the mistakes that were made, hopefully making it look a little crisper and sharper. Those pant lines were a little jagged, as I said earlier, so I'm coming in and trying to match that skin tone. It's, for me, hard to match skin color. I am a novice when it comes to things like that, so sometimes when I try to rematch colors, the skin looks a little off, but with this, I think overall it turned out pretty well. So, but you be the judge. As I said, we're about to do the display here in just a moment, so I appreciate everyone taking time to watch it. If you made it this far, I hope you would consider subscribing, and then if you would consider hitting the like button and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss my future uploads, I would sincerely appreciate it. And I try to save that for the end. I know everyone gets sick of hearing it, so here we have it, the display. We have the front, back, and side views, and then we'll do a quick little 360 turnaround display. So, once again, I appreciate your guys' time. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I hope I've inspired you to create or sleep well.